Krakos, whenever you're ready.
Good morning. This is the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's morning docket. Today is Thursday, July 20th, 2017. When your case is called, please step forward, state your name into the microphone. If you're going to be giving testimony, please be prepared to be sworn in. If you have an electronic device or cell phone, please silence that device or put it on vibrate. Okay. Calling the first case.
Do you have preliminary matter? Postponement.
Oh, you're correct. I apologize, Mr. Chair. There is one preliminary matter. It's case number 5 on the docket. Anthony Gambino Jr., Deke Incorporated, trading as Ciao Bella Restaurant, 232 through 36 South High Street. That matter has been postponed and will be rescheduled. Calling the first case on the docket, Bruce Richardson and Michael White, the Sobo Taco Spot, trading as Banditos, 1118 South Charles Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. It's a violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, a violation of Rule 4.16, Illegal Conduct, and a violation of Rule 3.02, Cooperation.
We have good morning, everybody. We have a number of people here today. I don't know how many of you are familiar with our proceedings, so I just wanted to make a couple of comments. Everybody's welcome. When you are coming forward to speak, because we're both on television and being recorded, it's important that you identify yourself, and sometimes the reporter will need you to spell your name before you speak, and then if you will lean into these microphones, it makes it easier as well. Second thing I wanted to comment, we have a violation docket today. So these are cases in which the licensees have received notice of violations from our inspectors or the police or other city or state agencies, and the board hears them in 2 sections. So the first issue that we have to determine is whether or not there actually was a violation on the date in question. And then if we determine that there's a violation, we have to determine what sanction, if anything, we're going to impose. So I imagine if there are people here who want to address the issue of the sanction, if you'll just wait until we make a determination whether there's a violation, then we'll be happy to hear from you on whether you support or oppose the licensees. So, Counsel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Peter Previs on behalf of the licensees.
Good morning. And will everyone who's going to testify on the violations in this case please raise your right hand?
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And these will be contested?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Detective?
On 13th May,
Detective, you have to identify yourself.
Detective L.C. Greenhill, Operational Intelligence Division, Vice Unit.
Thank you.
On 13th May of this year at 2:20 a.m., detectives from OID Vice consisting of Sergeant Lyser, myself, and Detectives Gatto, along with Agent Chris and Malice, responded to 1118 South Charles Street for a report of a cutting. Investigators Craig Crippen and Dave McGinnis from Department of Housing was also with us and also responded. Once on the scene, the night manager on duty that night was identified as James William DePino Jr., and he was in full operational control of the premises. Southern District patrol units, as well as homicide detectives, were already on the scene conducting their investigation. Homicide detectives were called to the scene due to the seriousness of one of the victims. Crime lab techs were also on the scene as well, processing the crime scene, which was inside the bar as well as outside of Banditos. Homicide detectives and Southern District officer advised vice detectives that an altercation occurred at 1:40 a.m. inside of Banditos, located at 1118 South Charles Street. Officer Goodwin of the Southern District arrived on scene to find victim 1, Demetri Phillips Gaither, a black male, 24 years of age, lying in front of Banditos, suffering from multiple stab wounds. Officer Goodwin noticed several black males exit the bar, later identified as Rodney Johnson, black male, 24 years of age, and Cameron Michael Price, black male, 25 years of age, both also suffering from stab wounds. Medics were called to the scene, and transported the victims to Maryland Shock Trauma. A fourth victim was located who drove himself to Harbor Hospital, later identified as Sean Guzman, white male, 17 years of age. Also suffering from stab wounds, but later transported to shock trauma. Witnesses were transported to homicide section for further questioning by detectives. Further investigation. As a result of the cutting investigation, it was determined that victim 4, Sean Guzman, was identified as the suspect as well. District detectives sought an arrest warrant for suspect Guzman and arrested him, where he was charged accordingly at CBIF. Detectives Greenhill and Agent Chris Malice conducted a follow-up investigation on 14th May at 12:30 a.m. at Benditos, located at 1118 South Charles Street. It was revealed earlier that evening by Southern District Supervisor that suspect Guzman was 17 years of age. Detective Greenhill and Agent Chris Malice spoke with owner Andrew Dunlap, along with one of his managers, Travis Reed, concerning the cutting and the fact that a 17-year-old was inside the bar. Also on the scene was head of security Matthew Robert Sawyers, whose company, Ace Security, had security personnel working the night of the cutting. Mr. Dunlap and Reed were very cooperative, as well as Mr. Sawyers. Mr. Dunlap, Reed, and Sawyers could not provide further details on how a 17-year-old got past security and inside the bar. There were security cameras in the bar, but none of them were working at the time of the incident due to an on-site expansion of the establishment. Mr. Dunlap and Reed advised Detective Greenhill and Agent Chris Malice that they are having a meeting with their staff, as well as a meeting with Matthew Sawyers and his security team to ensure a safer environment for bar patrons and to better screen for underage patrons entering the establishment. Detective Greenhill also informed Mr. Dunlap and Reed that it was revealed that the night of the cutting, the staff under manager James DePino had started to clean the bar area of blood evidence prior to the police and crime lab tech's arrival, thus destroying blood evidence, hindering the investigation. OID Vice Detective smelled a strong odor of bleach within the primary cutting scene inside the bar as we arrived on scene at 2:20, 13th May of 2017. Detective Greenhill advised Mr. Dunlap to inform his staff that any potential crime scene in the bar must be preserved until police units advise the management that a cleaning process can be conducted. At that time, the investigation was completed.
Questions for the detective?
Thank you. Detective Greenhill, you indicated that you arrived there after the police officer on duty, as well as the detectives investigating the stabbing, got there. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And was Mr. DePino there?
Yes, I believe so.
And you spoke with him?
Is that, no, Mr., is that,
Dunlap?
no, the manager on duty, I believe that night was,
Mr. DePino. Mr. Reed was the following night.
okay, yes, and that
Okay.
is correct.
And was he polite and cooperative with you?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to the bleaching of the crime scene, did he do anything that you told him not to do?
As I said, when I got there, there was just a strong odor of bleach. No one was cleaning at that
Okay.
time.
But it's not a case where he had been instructed by police or anyone else that this is a crime scene and do not touch it until cleared by the police, and then he went and did something anyway? Is that
No,
right?
no.
Okay. And what was Mr. DePino's demeanor on that night?
As far as I'm concerned, he was calm and cooperative.
Okay. There's, as far as the individuals involved, you later found out that Mr. Guzman was charged with stabbing the other patrons, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and all indications are that the other three patrons were, that they were polite and orderly and had not caused any type of altercation?
Not speaking with them and not knowing any other information, I would assume so.
Okay, and there's no indication about whether there was any type of yelling match or physical altercation or anything that erupted prior to this incident?
That I wouldn't know.
Okay. Now, with regard to the security cameras, they did indicate to you that the system was being updated due to the current expansion?
That's correct.
Okay, and from your observations, that appeared to be accurate information that they provided to you?
Just based off of what they told me. I took it as pretty much the truth.
Okay. And then the following evening, you said you followed up with Inspector Chris Amalis and spoke with Mr. Dunlap and Mr. Reed.
Yes.
And they were also polite and cooperative.
Yes.
And they didn't do anything that you told them not to do, and they didn't not do anything that you told them to do, is that right?
No.
Okay. And you did speak with Mr. Sowers, the head of the then security company,
Yes.
and he did provide the information to you that you requested?
Yeah, the only thing, just as far as how many security personnel he had on that night, yes,
Okay.
he was cooperative and provided that as well.
And it appeared that they had adequate staffing for the crowd that was involved?
For that particular night, it appeared they did.
Okay.
So.
And it appeared it wasn't quite that busy of a night.
But see, I can't. I got there after the fact, so I can't comment on that.
Understand. Okay.
Anything further?
Nothing, thank you.
Did you have anything to add, Inspector?
No, we did the follow-up together. I did meet with one of the
Yeah,
owners.
please identify yourself.
I'm sorry, Agent Chris Amalis, Baltimore City Liquor Board. I did have a second follow-up about a week after the 14th with the gentleman here to my right, one of the owners, I just wanted to know how the meeting with the security went. And he had advised me that he was not happy with the answers that they were providing, and they had replaced the security company. That's the only other communication I had with him without Detective Greenhill.
Okay, do you have any questions for the inspector?
Just very briefly, Agent Chris Amalis, with regard to Mr. Guzman being 17 years of age, were you able to establish any information as to how or why he got into the premises?
We asked, Detective Greenhill and I asked the head of security on how the 17-year-old was inside the establishment at 1:40 a.m. And the response that we got from the head of security was that he might have been in there eating, and that they typically do a good job making sure that everyone after the kitchen closes is over 21. How they missed him, I couldn't answer that. He didn't have an explanation.
Okay. And have you met with the new security staff?
We've met them a couple of occasions.
And have they been cooperative?
They've been cooperative.
Thank you.
Okay, officer, did you have something to add?
He would need to be sworn.
Oh, you were not sworn? No, sir. Oh, can you come forward and raise your right hand, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And your name, sir?
Detective Crenton Elmar Goodwin.
Okay, and did,
Crenton, C-R-E-I-N-T-O-N.
so Detective Goodwin, do you have anything to add to this?
No, sir.
Okay, and you were present as well?
Yes, sir.
And, okay, so you would say the same thing that Detective Greenhill said?
I didn't particularly participate in the dealings as far as their investigation, but I was a primary officer on the scene when the incident happened.
Okay. So were you there before they were there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so do you have any information about what went on inside the premises?
Other than it was an individual in there underage and stabbing occurred, it was pretty chaotic. So
Okay.
Other than that.
Questions for the detective?
Thank you. Detective Goodwin, you indicated that you were the first on the scene.
Yes.
Okay, and you were dealing with the victims who were in the front of the premises and a little way down from the front of the premises, is that right?
Majority in the front of the premise, yes, sir.
And did you also just meet with or speak with Mr. DePino, the manager on duty?
No, I didn't speak with him in lieu of a conversation of what happened. I briefly, vaguely remember him being there
Okay,
after everything had cleared up and everybody was transported to the hospital.
okay. But your initial function was to attend to the victims?
Yes, sir. Once we saw the stabbing, our initial response was to render aid.
Okay. And the actual investigation was done by another detective?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was Mr. DePino polite and cooperative?
Like I said, I didn't really have any dealings with him. I just vaguely seen him there, and I was kind of dealing with everything else because I was dealing with the primary of handling getting all the information, obtaining everything from.
Okay. With regard to the issue of whether he had failed to cooperate with the police in reference to
The cleanup?
the cleanup, Did you tell him, or did you hear any other police officers tell him, do not clean this, and he did it anyway?
The incident was captured on our body camera. So actually, when we entered the premise, it was a strong odor of bleach, and some of their workers, they were cleaning, and we just instructed them to stop cleaning.
Stop cleaning, okay.
Yeah, and
they
at that
cooperated.
point, I went back outside to further conduct get more information in reference to the victims.
Okay, thank you, I have no further.
Okay.
Okay, do you wish to put on evidence?
Yes, yes. First, I would call Mr. James DePino.
Okay, Mr. DePino, if you step up to the microphone.
Mr. DePino, you were sworn, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and do you work at Banditos?
Yes.
And what is your capacity?
Our capacity is 200.
No, I'm sorry, what is your job?
That's actually a very honest answer. I think he means, what's your job?
I am the general manager, so I'm in control of all operations.
Okay,
Okay.
and were you the manager on duty on May 13th, 2017?
Yes.
Okay, and this incident occurred around 1:40 a.m. Were you present?
Yes.
Okay, immediately prior to this occurring, where were you?
We usually start closing up, calling last call around 1:30 and moving people forward to try to, let everybody know that we only have a short period of time before staff and all starts cleaning up and we start closing at the tabs and all. So at 1:30, we started moving people forward. I grabbed the cash registers from our back bar, which was closed and the lights were on. Took it back to my office with some of the money. I was putting some things away.
Okay, just so the board has a little bit of concept about the interior layout of Banditos, the current existing premises, not any expanded premises, is basically two row house type buildings, is that right?
Yes.
And the main bar is on the north side,
The main bar is when you walk in, the main entrance is straight in front of you.
and that's the northernmost part of the bar on Charles Street, is that right?
Yes.
And then the second part is the more southern part of the building, is that right?
There's one small on the left, and then there's one towards the back.
Okay, so on the southernmost, the southern of the two halves, there is a larger bar in the back.
Yes.
And that's the bar that you had closed,
Yes.
and the lights were up.
Yes.
Okay, the incident occurred on the southern side, in front of the back bar that had been closed?
It was kind of in between the front smaller bar and the larger back bar.
Okay, now, before you left to go in the back to put money away, was there any type of rowdiness or arguing or anything going on?
No, it was actually somewhat of a slower night, so like I said, I was just trying to speed up the process a little bit, grab some of the things and help the staff out and get cleaning up so we could get ready for the next day.
How many people were on duty at this point in time, say around 1:30?
Staff or
Staff?
staff, I had 6 people.
And where were they located?
They were each at their bars. There was 3 people at one bar, 1 person at another bar, and 2 people in the back bar that we were closing.
Okay, and the kitchen staff, were they still there cleaning?
No, they were all gone. They were all gone.
They had already completed their duties?
Yes.
All right, and there was security?
Yes.
And who was security at that night?
There was 5.
What company?
Oh, there was Ace.
Okay, and how many people?
5.
And where were they?
The last I saw that they were scattered, usually 2 people at the door and then 3 people covering some of the areas inside the building, depending where, the crowd is.
Okay, and when you came out of the back room, you were in the area of the back bar that had been closed and the lights were already up?
Yes.
And what was your first observation with regard to this incident?
Well, it was kind of like cloudy because I think that somebody must have sprayed pepper spray. So like when I looked up there, I kind of felt like it was surreal, and I was looking around and it was completely cleared out. I didn't see any security. I saw a couple of my staff members coughing, so I assumed that something was severe. And then when I looked forward, I saw that something had happened.
Okay, you saw blood on the floor?
Yes.
Okay, and did you go outside at that point?
No.
What did you do next?
Well, I was walking up there, and I looked over to the left, and I asked if everybody was okay, and they said yeah. So one of my barbacks was right there, and I've never been in a situation, so I told him to, start cleaning it up. I had about 4 females that were working, and, you know, as a man, I didn't want them to see it, but I didn't know the severity of the situation, or else, you know.
Because the actual individuals who were injured were outside?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't find that out until a little bit later, but, you know, my first move was to make sure that my staff was okay. So that's what I did. After I got everybody towards the back, I went out to the front and I looked outside, and I noticed that there was a man that was laying right in between Banditos and Mad River. So I went back inside, and by that time, the first officers were coming in, and that's from there.
And what did the officers do? Your first initial contact with the officers?
They just asked me if everybody was okay inside, you know, asked if I was okay, asked if I knew anything, pretty much explained everything I just told you guys. Like, I came out, I was in shock, you know. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never had a situation to where I kind of felt, felt in that manner, I guess you could say.
Felt what?
Just in that manner, you know, just come out and I was in complete surprise, but I didn't know exactly what had happened because when I came out, everybody was gone.
Okay. As far as your other employees, did anybody have a better vantage point with regard to this incident than you?
I mean, the people at the main bar wouldn't be able to see because there's a wall right where the incidents happened, and then the people at the back bar, they were too far back. There was only one bartender that possibly could have seen something. When I checked on him, he was like coughing severely, I guess, from whatever was sprayed. But I know everybody followed up with him, and he said he didn't see anything. It must have happened so fast. He didn't even know the severity of the situation as well.
Okay. The individuals, I'll call them the victims, was there any indication that they had acted in any type of rowdy fashion prior to this incident?
No,
Was there any advanced warning with regard to a fight or an altercation before this stabbing?
nope,
Okay. Did you know that Mr. Guzman, the defendant, I'll call him?
no,
Okay. And did you have any indication how he got into your premises?
no.
Well, I'll ask Mr. Dunlap with regard to speaking with security about that. Okay. And you cooperated with the police?
To the best of my ability, yes.
Okay. And you didn't realize that you were doing something wrong by mopping up the crime scene? Is that
No.
right?
Not at all.
Thank you. I have no-
Afterwards, when you spoke to people, was there anyone who had observed Mr. Guzman before the incident or during the incident?
No.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, commissioners?
So you're the person that gave the order to clean up the blood?
Yes.
So you're saying you came out of your office, you sensed pepper spray, you're in shock, you make sure your staff are okay, and then the next thing you do is say clean up the blood? Is that how you recall the event?
Yes.
Who actually cleaned up the blood?
One of the barbacks. And, I mean, I spoke to him as well, and he had no idea the severity of the situation, what had happened. He was starting to do his cleanup duties as well.
What is the barback's name that did the cleanup?
John
John what?
Cruz,
John Cruz, C-R-E-W-S or?
K-R-U-S-E.
K?
R-U-S-E.
Okay. And how old is he?
He's 23, I believe.
All right. Had Mr. Guzman been into Banditos before?
Not to my knowledge,
And do you know whether or not he had any relationship with any of the victims?
no.
And do you know whether any of the victims were related to one another in terms of friendship or kinship?
No.
You don't know. From what you've learned since this incident happened, is it your understanding that they were just 4 people who were randomly involved in a horrible incident?
To my understanding.
What do you mean to your understanding?
I mean, I didn't physically or, I didn't see anything. I was in the back, so throughout the night, there's a lot of patrons that come in, and I didn't notice if they knew each other or anything like that. I'm
Okay.
mostly checking on my staff and making sure security's doing their job.
All right. And since the incident happened, have you had the chance to inquire or ask of anybody, who are these people and why were they in our establishment and why did this happen?
Not me specifically, no.
Who did?
Mr. Dunlap will testify next.
All right, I'm asking him, who did?
The owner, Drew Dunlap,
Okay, he made those inquiries.
yes.
Okay. Are you still employed at Banditos?
Yes.
Okay. Was it ever later confirmed that pepper spray was dispensed at this, during this incident?
I don't know if it was confirmed, but I'm pretty sure that it was in the air.
Okay, and do you know who used the pepper spray?
No.
Right, and how long between the incident, so you detect there's an incident, there's basically chaos. At some point, the police and the detectives arrive. What was the time span between when you discovered the problem and when the police arrived?
I mean, maybe 5 minutes. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
It's pretty chaotic.
All right, so with all of the chaos going on, but you did have the presence of mind to say, clean up this mess.
Yes.
Did it ever occur to you that you were destroying evidence through that
Um,
action?
No, I didn't know the severity of the situation, and if you put an ordinary person.
How much blood was on the floor?
Maybe 3 or 4 foot like radius of blood.
So that's a pretty large radius.
I've seen just as much in the kitchen when I was cooking. Somebody cut their finger.
And you saw that happen, and so then you would know the cause of that blood, correct?
Sure.
But when you come out of your office, pepper spray has been dispensed, the area has been cleared out, you've got the presence of mind to ask your staff if they're okay, because you know the answer could be yes and the answer could be no, and you see a copious amount of blood on the floor, and your first thought is to clean it up.
Sure. I didn't see any incentive in cleaning up blood. I mean, I was just trying to protect my staff, especially the females that were working
Protect
that
your
night,
staff from what?
from seeing blood.
Okay, but they would have seen blood in the kitchen, right?
I mean,
So what's the big deal if they see blood?
I was just reacting.
You see where I'm going, right? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm just trying to understand why your first thought would be to destroy evidence as opposed to making an assessment as the general manager of what's going on, where are the injured people, where did this blood come from, what's going on here, how do we get a handle on this situation? I'm just trying to understand
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, and that's never happened to me. So when you put an ordinary person in an extraordinary situation, you know, you got to do your best, and that was the best I had.
Except that you're not an ordinary person. You've been managing bars for 20 years. You've been in
I've been in the business
These-
for 20 years.
Yeah, you've been in the business for 20 years. You've probably seen a lot. You've seen a lot of blood just by your own testimony.
Never seen
I'm
that.
just so that's even more important. You've never seen that much.
No, I've never been in that situation where I came out and something had happened, and then figuring out exactly what had happened.
And everything's different.
Yeah.
And wouldn't the blood evidence have helped you understand what was happening? You didn't consider that a factor?
Everything happened so fast. My head was spinning.
Mm-hmm.
I was just doing what I thought was best.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Had you been drinking that night?
No.
All right. And you felt that you feel today that you had the presence of mind in that situation?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Those are all the questions I have.
Mr. Delpino, just a couple questions. How long, at what point prior to this incident did the video feed, how long was that suspended?
We were upgrading the cameras that Wednesday. So it had been 2 or 3 days that they were working on the new cameras.
So just before this incident, it just happened that way?
On Wednesday, we were upgrading, yes.
Okay.
Took them about a week.
As a general manager, do you know, and perhaps this is a question for Mr. Dunlap, but does Banditos have a policy on any, internal policies on criminal incidents that might occur in the establishment?
Well, we've never had any instances before, but I mean, anything that has happened with an altercation or anything inside has usually been diffused by the security, and nothing severe has happened.
Okay, I suspect this is probably pretty eye-opening now, and
Yes.
I suspect going forward, Banditos and hopefully others will recognize, at least with respect to this issue of cleanup, but be a little bit more aware.
We'll have systems in place, yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask the detective one question. Mr. Delpino referenced spray. I didn't hear that in any of the evidence. Are you aware of any spray, and if so, what kind?
No, sir. I didn't get any detected of any kind of spray.
Okay. Inspector? Detective?
We weren't aware of any spray. As I said, when we got there at 2:20 a.m., the scene was pretty much clear. But it's a good chance. It's always a possibility that might have been dispersed by any, the security personnel. But when we got there, I didn't detect any evidence of any type of pepper spray. But again, like I said, that was a very strong odor of bleach, so that could have blocked out any type of smell of anything like that too.
Who contacted the police?
They were already outside. I mean, there are usually like a couple patrol cars outside, but I didn't physically make a phone
It
call.
was a Saturday night, right? So I assume.
It was
Friday
Friday
night.
night.
So, but usually there, I understand that there are probably some officers.
Okay. Did you want to present other evidence?
Yes, I call Mr. Andrew Dunlap.
Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Mr. Dunlap, you were sworn?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with regard to speaking with the police and the liquor inspectors, did you speak with them that night?
No, I was not there that night.
Okay. You spoke with Detective Greenhill and Inspector Chris Amalis the next evening?
Correct.
Okay. And did they interview you and your staff in security?
Me, myself, Travis Reed, who was the manager that night, and Matt Sowers, who was the head of the security company we were using at that time.
Okay. Now, were you physically present when this incident occurred the night before?
No, I was not.
Okay. Did you go to the premises thereafter, or did you receive a call?
No, I did not go to the premises
Okay.
thereafter.
Were you out of town?
I was in DC that night.
Okay. Now, when you met with Detective Greenhill and Inspector Chris Amalis, were you polite and cooperative and answer all their questions?
Yes.
Okay. And your then security, Mr. Sowers, was he answering all their questions?
Yes.
Okay. And they inquired about Mr. Guzman and who he was and his age and why he was in there. Were you present when they questioned Mr. Sowers?
Yes.
And what occurred?
I mean, that communication was not between me, Mr. Chris Moss, and Mr. Sowers, but it was an exchange basically divulging the fact that the suspect was underage and that it was something that needed to be looked into.
Okay. And have you determined any further information since that evening with regard to Mr. Guzman?
Not in entirety. My communications were with Mr. Mundy, who was the detective on the case. And that was me getting updates, just trying to find out some information. But through the process, it seemed as if there wasn't much information being divulged. But that was about it.
Okay. Did you learn any further information about how Mr. Guzman got into the premises?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you change security since this occurred?
Yes, the following week, we had a new security company.
And why was that?
Just through the process of speaking with the inspectors and I guess the production of some of the evidence that was coming forth, we felt that it was time to question who we had working for our security company and seeing if there was something better out there.
Okay. And you did in fact hire a new security?
Yes,
And
they're called
present?
PSG, correct.
Okay. Now, with regard to Mr. DePino mopping up blood evidence, did you have any policies in place prior to that occurring?
No, we did not. Quite frankly, we don't look at our place as being a place that should ever have to undergo something this tragic. So when something like this happens, you're right, it is very eye-opening, and we don't take it lightly, so that you all know that. I think Mr. DePino just reacted, as he said. None of us have really experienced anything like this or this kind of severity, so I think in his mind, speaking for myself, I would have probably reacted in the same manner, just in the thought of cleaning up a mess, not knowing whether or not there was 3 victims or the severity of the situation. In my eyes, I seeing blood on the floor. I don't think crime, I just think of safety first, I guess, because I've never seen this before. So I think that would be my reaction as well.
Okay. Now with regard to the security that was present, that they had adequate staffing there that evening?
Yes.
Okay. And other than this incident, everything seemed to have been in good operational fashion?
Yes, we've never had any incidences with them, and if I remember correctly, we've been working with them since the end of 2013, somewhere in that time. So 3 to 4 years we've been using that company, and we hired them as a reference. They do big events, some stuff in Merriweather. It's a accredited security company, so we thought.
Okay. Now, did you learn any follow-up information with regard to the victims?
Yes, so I go to a barber shop, and I was speaking to my barber, and he had informed me that his girlfriend was friends with the victims in the situation, and I was like,
They appear to have been people of good character?
yes, my barber is, I definitely, he's a guy that yes, I would say that his word is.
Were any of them ever charged with anything?
I'm sorry?
Were the victims ever
No,
charged?
no.
Okay, so why are we going there?
Just to establish it.
Did anybody ever find out why Mr. Guzman did this? Was he
Not to my
intoxicated? Was he high? Was he in an argument? Nobody knows.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, are you done with him? So, you just said that the security company that you had at the time was a, quote, accredited security company, or so we thought.
Correct.
What does that mean?
When
What
we
do you mean by
hired-
that?
When we hired them, just with their track record and some of the accounts that they had and that they worked with, we felt that they were a good company to use.
So you thought they were qualified as opposed to having some sort of special accreditation in the security field?
Correct.
That's not a true, okay. To this day, do you know how Mr. Guzman got into the establishment?
No, I have no idea.
All right.
All we can do, I guess, is just assume. I had been in contact with Mr. Mundy just to ask if there was any other information, whether, just his friends or who he was with or his record, and he definitely said that he was known in the South Baltimore area, that he was not a person, he was underage and he should not have been there. But as to how he got in there, we have no idea.
So did you say that he was known in the South Baltimore area?
Some of the detectives knew of him.
Okay,
Or
so.
Mr. Mundy said that they knew his name.
So I was starting to wonder if maybe he was a phantom, like nobody knows anything about him. So he does have some identity. He
Unfortunately,
does
he's a
have
bad
some
person.
profile, and he
Yes,
was
I know
known.
about
But he somehow got past your security that night.
Correct.
And to this day, you don't know how he got past your security.
Correct.
Do you have any thought that maybe your security just let him in? Like they knew him and just said, come on in?
I can't speak on behalf of them, so I don't have an
What's
answer
your
for that.
sense of, because as I sit here, to me, it's hard to solve a problem if you don't know what the problem is. And so far, no one knows what the problem is that allowed this kid, he's a kid, to get in.
I totally agree
So
with
I'm
you.
listening for something that tells us that you have some sense of how this happened.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of variables. Yes, he may have well known somebody that was working the door that night. I don't know. We were advised not to communicate with the security company following that.
Who advised you
They're-
not to communicate with the security
Just
company?
speaking to councils and people that are like, well, if they're
Did an attorney tell you, do not talk to the security company?
we had a criminal attorney that we do talk to, and he has no bearing on this case. He was just giving advice as to not
Okay.
to incriminate or.
Because
not
I
to-
would think that would be the first thing you would do.
I
is-
did, and we did speak to Mr. Sowers, and we told him that we need to get talk to the people that were working that night, and he said he was on it. I just didn't feel comfortable myself going to each of them individually, asking questions, not knowing what, the result may be.
So I looked at the records, and we had an application to remove Bruce Richardson from the license and add you. Are you on the license today?
not.
You're not on the license. Is Mr. Richardson still on the license?
Yes,
Bruce
I believe so.
Richardson?
He was supposed to come off, I feel, yes, he's on there.
Is he here today?
No, he's not.
Is Michael Wolf here today? Or
Michael
Michael White?
Yes.
You are here, okay. So, as of now, you've not had any in-depth discussion with the former security company as to the key question here is, how did this guy get in?
Correct.
And you've not had that discussion.
Once we started to delve into it, our insurance companies got involved, and we had to give our accounts and his accounts, and they told us that they would take it from there.
And has your insurance company done its own investigation?
Yes.
And what are the results of that investigation?
It's still pending.
All right, so this incident occurred in May.
Correct.
And it's now July. So here, 6 months later, you
We
don't.
don't know anything.
You don't know
honestly.
anything.
Not involving the criminal side of the case, correct?
And in just involving the question of how did this person get in, what's the answer to that question?
We still do not know.
Okay.
Is the criminal case over?
No.
Okay.
All right, so with respect, where were you you were in Washington DC that
Correct.
night? When did you find out about this incident?
Late that night, I got phone calls. I don't want to, maybe late, 3:45. I didn't answer. I didn't know my phone was even ringing at that time. I was asleep.
Do you live in
so the
DC?
next- no, I do not.
Okay. All right, where do you live?
I now live in Federal Hill.
Okay. So you're not there. Your phone's ringing basically off the hook, right?
It's late, yes.
But it's late and you don't answer.
We put our trust in our managers. Jimmy's been in this business, like you said, for a very long time. Everybody that's on our staff that is in an operational position has experience, and we trust to be the face of the business.
And what is your role with respect to this establishment?
I'm a managing member.
You're a managing member, so you're one of the owners, right?
Correct.
When exactly did you find out about what had happened?
The next morning, I got an in-depth conversation. I came right back to and actually got the whole story.
What time?
I can't recall.
Was it like 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10, 11 noon?
Yeah, it was early, 7-ish, I'd say 7 a.m.
Anything further?
No, that's it for me.
Commissioner?
No, nothing at this point.
Okay, any other evidence?
Yes, I don't know whether, let me explain. I have two other witnesses. I don't know.
Are they
know whether-
cumulative, or they have something new to
They're not
add?
cumulative, but they may be more involved with sanction or lack thereof or mitigation than
Would
I
they
have.
know anything more about the violation?
No, I have,
Okay,
just
let's-
so I can explain, I have Mr. Paul Johnston, who's the head of the new security firm, to explain what measures are now in place. And I also have Mr. Brian Saville from the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association.
And he knows about the violation?
Not direct knowledge of that evening, just about the general character of the business.
Well, we're going to get to that. Let's just hear what the new arrangement is, okay?
Mr. Johnson?
And I had
Go
some
ahead.
questions for the detectives whenever.
Sure.
Okay, but we have a long docket, folks. We got to get moving. Okay, let's go.
Okay, Mr. Johnston, you were sworn?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and what is your company's name?
PSG.
And have you been retained by Banditos to operate security at this time?
We have.
Okay, and what measures have you put in place? I know you're probably not familiar with the prior company, but what do you guys do?
From the point that we hire our employees, they are screened for background and pre-assignment drug screening. They're also guard carded through Maryland State Police Department.
Can you explain Guard Card?
The Guard Card is a program that's operated and functioned by the Maryland State Police Department. They do a thorough background check, both federal and state, and any state location that the employee has lived in the past 10 years, check for background and areas that would make them not fit to serve in that function.
Briefly.
And then after that process is over, they are then licensed to operate as a security officer within the state of Maryland.
And would criminal convictions involving crimes of moral turpitude or CDS violations
Correct.
Prohibit those persons from being employed by you?
It would.
Okay, and how many people do you have at Banditos?
At Banditos, I have 5 to 6, depending upon the night.
And let's cut to the chase. What are you doing to keep 17-year-olds out?
We employ a scanner that scans for false identification, fake IDs that have been created at the highest level. Then our employees also do a visual inspection of the ID to make sure that the person who is presenting is in fact the person who is pictured on the ID.
Okay, and is that new, or did they have a scanner, the previous company, do you know?
I'm unaware.
Okay. Okay, questions for Mr. Johnson?
I don't have any questions for Mr. Johnson. I do have a question for Detective Godwin whenever.
Yeah, let's, do you have anything for?
Nothing from Mr.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Detective.
Detective,
Yes, ma'am.
we've heard testimony today that there was a sense that pepper spray had been used. And your testimony was that when you came in, all you smelled was bleach. You did not smell pepper spray. Is that correct?
Correct.
Have you ever been in a situation where pepper spray had been used?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long does it linger? How long does the odor linger in the air?
There's a bunch of contributing factors depending on the brand, the make, the model of pepper spray. I mean, it could linger around for a while. If it's expired, if it's outdated, it could not linger around, could not have such an effect, a vast effect.
Did you have an opportunity to ask questions of any of the patrons or the victims that were in the bar at the time?
No, ma'am.
You didn't talk to any of the victims or the patrons?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further on the violations?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Detective Greenhill, did you have an opportunity to interview any of the patrons or victims?
No, as I said, once we got there at 2:20, the only people that was on the scene was crime lab techs and police activity. Pretty much all patrons' activity had pretty much dispersed at that time.
Okay, and did you detect pepper spray when you were there? Okay, thank you.
Mr. DePina,
it for me.
if I could ask a follow-up. I thought I heard you say, with respect to Mr. Guzman being in the bar, that it was possible, correct me if I'm wrong, that Mr. Guzman may have been there to eat?
Yes.
And so explain to us that process. If you have someone who's underage there eating
Yes.
and you close the kitchen, how do you ensure that someone who's underage does not have access to the bar?
The security company is instructed to, around like 10:30, 11 o'clock when we're closing the kitchen, go back around, recard people, and either, let
But
them.
we don't have any evidence he was drinking. All we know is that he was in a fight.
Yes.
Well, I'll let you finish. I mean, because I had questions along those lines as well.
So do we know if he was carded by the security company at all?
No.
Clearly he wasn't. Right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But minors are allowed in.
Yes.
Okay.
Minors are allowed in, but they're not allowed to drink.
Yes.
And after you close the kitchen at 10:30, is it the practice of the bar to clear the bar of minors and then have the drinking only portion of the night?
The security company in the past, I guess, would use their discretion in that situation. If somebody was eating, they wouldn't tell them that they have to get up and leave. They would know if they were underage and, get them out at the appropriate time using their discretion.
So the situation that we're all concerned about could actually repeat itself.
No.
Why not?
Because now, I feel like that we've made the adjustments with the scanners and things like that, so we're more efficient.
But have you changed the policy of allowing people to come in and eat? I mean, everybody likes tacos.
Yes, of course.
But once the kitchen is closed, someone that comes in for tacos but not drinks can still be in the bar,
I
correct?
think going forward, we're going to make some adjustments with our protocol, and nobody will be allowed in the bar that is under 21 after a certain period of time, but legally, we don't have to tell them that they have to leave if they're just eating dinner.
Do the bartenders have the obligation to card?
Yes.
And do they?
Yes.
And do they have the scanners that you've described?
No, the scanners are for the security company only. Once we have somebody at the door, if the bartender feels like they should check somebody's identification again, they have the freedom to do that. But, for the most part, we trust our security companies to do what we pay them to do.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Just to follow up, I think it'll get to Commissioner Moore's question. After the kitchen closes, are minors allowed in the premises?
No, they can't come in, no.
Okay.
But if they're there, they're not
They don't
thrown
have
out.
to leave.
They're not thrown out, no.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Anything further?
Nothing
From
further.
anyone? Okay. With respect to the violation, so the way I read this, the violation of Rule 3.12 was charged because an incident of violence occurred on the premises and was not immediately controlled, and there were serious consequences and 3 innocent victims as a result. And the same is true of the Rule 4.16 violation. The fact that Mr. Guzman was on the premises for whatever reason, we have no evidence that he was there unlawfully. But the control of the incident is, I think, a violation of the rule, and the consequent circumstances that led to these serious injuries. So I would find a violation of Rule 3.12 and Rule 4.16. Mr. Akras, I need some guidance on Rule 3.02 because it sounds as though cooperation has an element of intent, and the testimony we have is that there was no intent to be non-cooperative. So you don't know? Okay. I would not find a violation of Rule 3.02.
So I concur in the finding of a violation of 3.12, and I concur in the finding of a violation of 4.16. I also find a violation of Rule 3.02 with respect to cooperation, because what the testimony is, knowingly or unknowingly, there was an effort to rid the scene of blood evidence, and blood evidence can't be reconstructed, particularly when it's destroyed by bleach. It wasn't just a matter of mopping it up. It was actually an effort to bleach it, and it was a strong odor of bleach. So I do find that violation. It's almost, either stupid 101 applies to you or it applies to us in thinking that there wasn't a violation, and I don't think anybody's stupid here. I think it was intentional. Thank you.
I find a violation of Rule 3.12 and a violation of 4.16. With respect to 3.02, our rules state that licensees and their agents, employees shall cooperate with the representatives of the board, the police department, et cetera, who are there on official business. What I heard from Mr. DePino is he immediately addressed the situation before any official came in to ask that not occur. His evidence suggests to me that there was not intent to be uncooperative, so I would not find a violation of that rule. I do think that this was serious enough that going forward it'll be more aware, you'll be more aware, and I hope others will as well.
Okay, and with respect to any sanctions, so just so the record is clear, the last violation, if there are any others, was in 2014 for violating prohibited hours, and there was a fine imposed. We have before the board various documents that have been submitted. You had solicited support from members of the community, and we have your June 16 letter with attached signatures and addresses. We have support letter from the Federal Hill Hospitality Association. We have 33 letters of support that were submitted by Mr. Previs, and we have a letter of support from the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association as well. Well, I think it's the same one. I think I have a copy of that. In opposition, or persons who aren't as fond of your establishment, we have a letter from the Federal Hill Neighborhood Association, one that is unsigned. We have a petition to reverse the expansion. I don't know why, because that has nothing to do with the case before us today. Several of those. And the Liquor Advisory Committee of FHNA asked for a temporary closure. The towers at Harbor Court contend that the owners and managers have demonstrated an inability to manage the properties properly. So that's the evidence before us on the issues of sanctions.
Mr. Chairman, just so that I make sure the record is complete, I attached to the letters that I had submitted, I also had a petition on behalf of Banditos. I believe that's attached. If it's not, I have an extra copy.
Okay, you can submit it too, Ms. Russell. So there is a great deal of support in the community, and then there's some opposition in the community. So if there are persons here who have something specific they'd like to add to that record, we'll hear from them.
May I call Mr. Do you want
You can.
Mr. Saville?
Good afternoon.
You need to be sworn, sir. Please raise your right hand.
I was.
Oh, you were? Okay. And your name, please?
Brian Saville,
How do you spell it?
S-A-V as in Victor, A-L.
Okay.
Mr. Saville, what is your position?
I'm a resident of South Baltimore. I live 2 blocks away from Banditos. I'm a member of the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association and was a member of the Liquor Board Advisory Committee for the past year and a half.
And the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association had previously submitted a letter through Mr. Murphy.
Certainly. So we unanimously supported Banditos, and main reason was because of how cooperative they've always been. They've always communicated well with us. They're, a great operator. We've never had any issues, which is pretty rare in our neighborhood for a restaurant to not have any issues. So they've been a great part of our neighborhood.
Was there any reason to anticipate an act of violence like this occurring in May?
Can you ask that again?
I said, was there any reason to anticipate that an act of violence like this would occur at Banditos in May?
No, of course not. No. We all frequent there. We love the restaurant. We like the bar. It's an isolated incident for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
One question. Mr. Saville, did I
Saville.
pronounce that right? Other than being a patron, do you have any other relationship with the owners?
Yes, I have a company, Saville Food Service. So we do sell food and chemicals to all restaurants and a lot of restaurants in the neighborhood.
And Banditos, I assume, is one of those?
Banditos is, yeah.
Thank you.
So are you related to Paul Saville?
Yes, he's my
Your
father.
dad? Okay,
Correct.
he's a good friend. So you live 2 blocks.
I do.
How often do you go to Banditos?
I couldn't tell you now. I don't get out too much anymore, but certainly for, a dinner every now and again, I come in.
So, and Saville Foods provides food
We do.
to Banditos? Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Thank you. No, other than
Okay.
my comments.
I see people lined up here. Is there anyone here who would like to address this issue of management, control of violence, and that sort of thing that occurs at Banditos? Come up and be sworn, please. Would you raise your right hand, sir?
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, so sir, would you state your name for the record?
It's Ivo, I-V-O. Last name is J-A-M-R-O-S-Z.
J-A-M-R-O-S-Z.
Right.
How do you pronounce that, sir?
Yamarosh,
Okay.
Ivo. I have a comment first, and that is, we initially did send a letter. I'm part of the Federal Hill Neighborhood Association and a resident for over 30 years. We were with you here not that long ago when the expansion issue came up.
Yes.
I did send out a letter without the board approval that was mentioned by you, and that letter, I think Tom told me, was going to be taken out of the file, and so it should not have been submitted. I did send a letter on my own, not mentioning that we're part of the Liquor Advisory Committee to the neighborhood as well. Number one issue is what we brought up with you when the expansion came up, and that is the oversaturation of the neighborhood with bars. We had testimony from the Bloomberg School of Health where they said the more bars you have, the more seats you have, the more violence you have. We have a prima facie evidence here of what happens when too many bars are in a small space. We have my wife, excuse her, did this little simple project. I wish, and please, it's just a number of bars and a number of seats in the 2 square blocks of Federal Hill, where this bar is located. Everybody see
I think
this?
we're all aware of that.
You're all aware of that.
We know it's a very populated area
Yes,
for bars.
I was told that of the half the liquor licenses in Baltimore and the 46th district. We had a meeting with Major Ward from the Southern District. He is the commander of the district. He says, in his experience, there are 3 major problems with the bars, or there are 3 major problem bars. This is being one of them. There's a constant, that there were 3 were named, and this is one of the problems.
You know we have no other violations for them.
No, but what I can present to you is that I think you all have access to this.
You can't do.
What? The Baltimore City has a open thing everybody called Open Baltimore, and you can look at every crime that's been reported. And if you look at the last 4 months, this is actually from, I ran at something from February, well, actually January 27th. You have common assault. I mean, when you look at all the issues, and the issues are all in that 1100
They've all
block of Charles
occurred.
Street.
Oh, so they've occurred in that area?
Yes.
But
Here,
do we
you
know
can-
whether they've occurred at Banditos?
No, there is no way of knowing that, because the problem is, and this is what the major has said, is he, first of all, and as a resident of the city of Baltimore, and I don't know how many of these other people are residents of the city of Baltimore, we pay for the police. He has told us that half of his troops, Friday night, Saturday night, are used to control this area.
Oh,
He
which
has-
area are you talking about?
About the control of,
This 100 block?
yes, this
Half
area.
the troops of the Baltimore City Police Department are in the
In the-
1100
From the
block of
Southern
South.
District, from the Southern District. So half of his troops who work at night have to be used on Friday and Saturday night to control this area.
And yet we've never had an incident before?
Well, we had lots of incidents. All you have to do is look at this open Baltimore list.
I don't mean to argue with you, but
Well,
this
the
is the
point
first
is, it's-
time we've got one in front of us.
Well, here it is. I mean, it's, the city provides us with this information,
But you
so
told me you can't tie that to this bar.
I'm not tying it to any specific bar.
So why are you here?
The idea is
We're
that.
here on an issue of what to do about this bar and these
Yes,
licenses.
and my idea is that the bar is another problem player in the neighborhood.
But that's a very general statement, sir.
From the major of the Southern District, who do you believe?
It's not here.
Well, no, but we have several witnesses who were at that meeting, and they'll be glad to testify that that's what he said.
Okay. I hear
So
you.
is that testimony or hearsay? We've just also had hearsay that that the perpetrator has on his Facebook page alluded to several times of being in Banditos prior to this incident.
Well, we have no evidence that he was
I don't have any
unlawfully
evidence
there.
either. All I just do is I want to mention it. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you. Anything else? I mean, we have a docket of cases. This is here on violation of 2 rules for Banditos and for the licensees of Banditos. And I can't cure whatever problems you have with Federal Hill in this hearing today. Yes.
Okay. I'm Henry Valeri. I wrote the letter on to the board about the Banditos violations.
Is that the one that was unsigned? Or you have yours? Oh, okay. That, the Harbor Court one?
Yes.
Okay.
The letter's addressed to 3 issues or 3 areas. One's Banditos, the other's Waywards, and the third is the yet unnamed addition. Based on your comments right now, I'd just like to address Banditos.
I'm not trying to be difficult, sir, but
No.
but that's the only issue we have.
Well, I agree. Good. Banditos is recognized, if I might just read from it for the record. It's recognized by both the Southern District Police and the community as a problem bar. That is, one whose patrons are more likely to create a police problem, especially at closing time. And in parentheses, you can see I requested that the board specifically ask Major Ward or his representative to comment and verify. In the stabbing incident, it was revealed that the established security procedures did not prevent a 17-year-old minor from passing through the security checkpoint where no one under the age of 21 was to be admitted. The closed-circuit CCTV cameras were not operational during the incident, and the situation was allowed to escalate by inattentive and ineffectual staff. The substitution of a new security firm for the old cannot in any way be considered a comforting solution, absent the assurance that this time management will closely monitor the selection, assignment, and performance of those security personnel. A defense that it was all the security firm's failure is unacceptable. The failure of the CCTV cameras just on the date and at the time of the stabbing exceeds the bounds of statistical credibility. It's clear that the failure of this extremely valuable tool reflects a failure in management of the operation. Again, we request that the board ask the Banditos people how long the system was down and when it was brought back online. That's about the most I think I made the point.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Elizabeth Homer. I'm the former secretary of the Federal Hill Neighborhood Association.
How do you spell your name, ma'am?
Elizabeth with a Z.
No, I mean your last name.
Homer, Homer, just like baseball,
Okay.
sir.
The reporter just didn't catch it. Okay.
Okay. I took the minutes of the meeting of May 16th, and as the board considers what, if any, sanction to place on this bar, I would like you to underscore the concern of the community. In my notes, motion made and seconded by FHNA to pressure the liquor board and the city by appropriate means to shut down Banditos for some specified amount of time. Motion passed unanimously. Subsequently, my vice president told me there were 3 abstentions. That's all. Thank you.
I'm Rosalie McCabe. I'm a member of the Federal Hill Liquor Advisory Committee, and I'm a resident of Federal Hill. And just in terms of sanctions, I just wanted to say the neighborhood is not against bars, or our organization is not against bars, but we feel with that kind of concentration, as we showed you, that exists in the neighborhood of 5,000, capacity of 5,002 square blocks, that when something like this seriously happens, that we feel that the liquor board needs to deal with it harshly, not lightly.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So, Mr. Akers, on this, what are the monetary limits?
Oh, as this would be the licensee's second, at least second violation, the board can fine up to $3,000 and can suspend and/or revoke the license.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before you pass, I just want to note for the record the actual people that are physically
Can
here.
we ask those who are here and support to stand, please? Okay. And are these the same folks who signed the various letters and petitions?
I believe so.
Okay.
And one other thing, in real brief rebuttal, Mr. Dunlap has met with both of the community associations. He's also, I'll proffer for him so we can move on. He's also investigating a private security, not just in Banditos, but area-wide, and he's trying to invoke the assistance of the Federal Hill Business Association and the Caves Valley folks from the market, and to actually contribute to a fund that would act as Inner Harbor East does. And he's been to the meetings, and he's been proactive with regard to this incident.
Thank you all. You may be seated. So I just want to be clear. If I sounded like I was a little harsh with someone, this board recognizes that there's a very high concentration of bars in Federal Hill. We recognize that there are people who live in that community who aren't happy about that and who have come before us a number of times raising complaints on renewal of licenses, et cetera, and on violation cases. We're not blind to the fact that there are people who do not like that heavy concentration and the potential for community harm that may raise or pose. But today, we are here on a violation docket, and we have one particular license in front of us, and it has been found in violation of 2 rules on May 13, 2017. So we don't take it, I mean, certainly we take it seriously. We don't take it lightly, but we have to be focused as to what we're doing. And so as to the Rule 312 violation, I'd impose a $1,500 fine. As to the Rule 4.16 violation, I'd impose a $1,500 fine. And I guess I'd like to hear from my colleagues as to whether or not they are inclined to suspend it all.
So as I understand the parameters, I'm thinking that we can impose a fine of $3,000 per violation.
You can, I believe.
Per count.
Per count.
Yeah.
I would impose a $3,000 fine for violation of Rule 3.12, and I would impose a $3,000 fine for violation of 4.1, is it 16? In terms of closing, I have to say when you all were here earlier for the expansion, you got a 2-1 vote. I was opposed to the expansion. And I gave all my reasons at that time. I felt that it was too big, too fast, too much, and it was increasing the saturation. And we're not here to review that decision. And but in terms of closing, I don't believe closing is going to change the circumstances here this time. Had there been a finding of a violation of 3.02, which I found, but my colleagues did not, I absolutely would have imposed a period of closure, because that to me is just reprehensible. But that wasn't found, so I would impose a fine of a total of $6,000 plus our administrative fee, and I'm not at this point suggesting a period of closure.
I actually concur with Commissioner Moore. I think a fine of $3,000 for violation of Rule 3.12 and $3,000 for violation of 4.16. And I differ with my colleagues. I do think, while I think the licensee is taking this seriously and making a number of precautions, I think closing them down for a period of time, I think sends a message and makes sure that everyone's house is in order. But that's not where we are. So,
well, I'd be open to considering that. I mean, if you want to, I would consider it.
Well, what are you proposing?
I would
go ahead.
I would propose a 2-week suspension.
So here's my thinking. I want to. It should be pretty obvious. I'm concerned that y'all still today don't know what happened and why it happened. And what I'm hearing consistently is there's sort of active avoidance of knowledge, and that bothers me. That concerns me. Some vague veil of attorneys telling you not to talk. I'm not buying that. That makes me uncomfortable. I appreciate that there's a lot of support, and I appreciate that there's a lot of opposition. Something's happening there that needs serious attention. And you're going through this expansion. For whatever reason, y'all decided to take down your security system. You didn't step up security. You didn't do anything to compensate for that. After the incident, I appreciate that you've made changes, but the key issue is why did this happen? And you know nothing. You know absolutely nothing. I think you need to find out what happened and why this was allowed to happen. So I support the 2-week closure plus the $6,000 in fines.
Okay, so the ruling is that as to each of the rule violations, the penalty is $3,000, and that the license is suspended. When will it begin, the suspension?
I guess tonight or tomorrow, whenever we can pick up the license.
Okay, and
It's
for
up
a
to you.
period of 14 days, right?
14 days.
And with the administrative costs. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a point of clarification?
Mhm.
The two violations that are charged are identical?
Not really, but they're similar.
Okay, I was going to,
I mean, one is a general welfare violation, one is an illegal conduct violation, so they're separate rules.
yeah, but the 4.16 now,
They have
it says,
operative
"Or
facts. or
that is
something.
against the public peace, safety, health, welfare, required or morals." It's the same violation. It's not the first clause that they violated some other law. It's that
If you thought that, why didn't you raise that preliminarily? We spent 2 hours here on this.
They're not the same. They're different.
They're different.
They're different. They're different charges.
If you, frankly, if you want to submit something, if you believe that we've made an error of law, if you want to submit something in writing, we'll consider it, okay? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the closure starts effective today.
Yes, if you can do that.
Any exhibits?
Yes. How many days to pay the fine?
30 at most.
Yes, 30, I'm sorry, 30 days to pay.
All the exhibits have to be cleared out.
Yeah, she's going to call the exhibits.
Board Exhibit 1, Baltimore City Police Department report. Elsie Greenhill. Board Exhibit 2, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Officer Goodwin. Board Exhibit 3, Investigation Report, Inspector John Chrisomales. Exhibit 4, Circuit Court of Baltimore Case Report. Exhibit 5, Petition of Support dated 6/16/2017. Exhibit 6, Letter of Support, Federal Hill Hospitality Association dated 7/2017. Exhibit 7, Packet of 33 Letters of Support dated 7/19/2017, and cover letter. Exhibit 8, Letter of Support, South Baltimore Neighborhood Association dated 7/17/17. Exhibit 9, from Federal Hill Neighborhood Association dated 6/16/17. Exhibit 10, Anonymous Letter dated 6/20/2017. Exhibit 11, Letter of Opposition from the Towers of Harbor Court dated 7/17/17. Exhibit 12, Petition of Support of 34 signatures. 13, Petition of Support, 15 signatures. 14, are we submitting the email from Mr. Ivo, or are we removing that?
If he wants it removed, we can remove it.
So 13 exhibits for board. Licensee Exhibit 1, various levels of support and petition of support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Previs.
Chairman's up again. That's what, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next case.
Calling Munsik Haberkam and Shang H. Yim Linden Bar and Liquors Incorporated, trading as Linden Bar and Liquors, 904 through 08 West North Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, liquor license. It's a violation of Rule 4.20C to I. Class BD7 licenses, opening and operating tavern at all times.
Do you have this case as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good.
Can they raise their right hands, please? Mr.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're going to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good afternoon,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. Peter Previs on behalf of the licensees. The licensee would like to admit the violation and
Okay.
provide an explanation.
That's fine. Please. You are, sir?
Chang Im,
Okay.
Your last name?
Chang. Last name is Yim.
Yes. So this rule violation is for March 31, 2017, when it is contended that detectives were unable to gain access to the tavern portion of the premises.
Yes.
What happened?
At that day, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I had to help her for a math project. And she was at the store, and it was kind of late. And then I asked my wife to drop off home after to finish the project, and my wife was on the way to the store then, but I was alone at the time. And then I had, I think some undercover came into the store and asked me to open the bar, and I did say not yet because my wife wasn't there at that time. So.
Did you understand that you had to have it open at all times?
Yes, I do.
So were you telling them that if they waited, it would be open, or were you saying no?
Well, I didn't have time to explain to the detective. They just left.
Okay. Who was in? You, Detective Gatto?
I was there, sir, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about your interaction with Mr. Yim.
Detective Abraham Gatto, Baltimore City Police Vice Unit. The interaction after the undercovers left advised us that they were denied entry. Detective Greenhill, myself, Chief Fosler, Agent Chrisomales, we all entered, spoke with the licensee. We ID'd him through his Maryland State photo ID, and Detective Greenhill advised him that the two individuals that have entered his tavern to try to gain access to the back tavern area were BPD undercovers. He explained the violation, that it would be, he explained that the chief of the liquor board was there, Agent Chrisomales was there, that there would be a violation written up, it would be forwarded to the liquor board, and he would be seeing something in the mail.
Okay. And was he cooperative with you?
Very cooperative.
Okay.
We've never had a problem as far as any type of communication with Linden Bar, I can say that.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions?
No.
Okay, so for the record, back In 2012, there was a corporate charter violation. Other than that, the record is clean with respect to this licensee. It's the first time that, is there a question?
It's clarification. There was a period of time where the board did not hold hearings. They just sent letters if you paid that, and showed that you got your traders and corporate charter.
So this wasn't an actual hearing before the board?
My memory is not serving me well. I'm trying to ask Mr. Yin whether.
It's not a matter of great significance to me, frankly. It's old, and it doesn't relate to the situation here. This is a problem, an ongoing problem with BD7 licenses, sir. There are certain members of the board, particularly my colleague to my right, who take these very seriously because it's a real opportunity for you to have that kind of license, and you need to be open at all times. It's the first time we've found you in violation of that. But if it continues, you will, I think, meet with severe penalties. So you're going to have to be open. Do you understand that? No matter what the family situation is. I would find a violation of Rule 4.20 CII on March 31, 2017. I'd impose a $1,000 fine and give him 30 days to pay it.
I agree.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And call exhibits to the record. Board Exhibit 1, Investigation Report, Inspector John Chrisomalis. Board Exhibit 2, Baltimore City Police Report, Detective Gatto. Thank you.
Calling the next case, Joginder Samra and Joginder Singh, 2300 West Baltimore Street, LLC, trading as Club 2300, 2300 West Baltimore Street. There's a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. It's a violation of Rule 4.20 CII. Class BD7 licenses open and operating tavern at all times.
I'm sorry. Is that the only violation?
There's 3 violations.
He's in conference.
Would you like me to call the rest of the violations?
Sure.
Okay. Violation of Rule 3.09A, Restaurant Facilities and Health Regulations, dated March 30th, 2017. Violation of Rule 3.09B, Restroom Facilities and Health Regulations, March 30th, 2017.
Okay. Would everyone raise their right hands, please?
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Are you Mr. Samra?
No, Joginder Singh.
You're Mr. Singh. And you are?
Jashanpreet Kaur, his daughter.
Okay. Mr. Singh, you're charged with these violations on March 30th. Are you going to admit them, or do you want to have a contested hearing?
Well, I just wanted to. Oh, sorry, Jashanpreet Kaur. Do you want my ID? JASHANPREET. Last name is Kaur. KAUR.
Yes, Ms. Carr, what were you saying?
I just wanted to explain the situation. So our worker, he was new at the time. So he was basically new to the.
I have to stop you. You have two choices. You can say this happened, and then you can explain it, or I can have them give testimony and tell me that it happened, and you can defend it. Which would you rather do?
Yeah, we'll defend it.
Okay.
Detective L.C. Greenhill, OID Vice. On 30th March of this year, at between the hours of 9:38 p.m. and 9:50 p.m., Detectives Greenhill and Gatto, along with Chief Inspector Mark Fossler and Agent Chris Malice, conducted a BD7 check at Club 2300, located at 23 West Baltimore Street. Also working were Detectives Owakawande and Detectives Jay Garrett, both of OID Vice, and both working in a plainclothes capacity, posing as patrons in an attempt to gain entry into the tavern of each establishment. As the board know, BD7 violations basically consist of bars that operate as packaged goods in taverns, and some of which don't keep their taverns open. Detective Garrett, at 9:38 p.m., entered the location of 2300 West Baltimore Street, known as Club 2300, and asked the Middle Eastern male working if the rear bar was open. The Middle Eastern male later identified as Happy Salinda replied saying no, indicating the rear bar was closed to customers. Detective Garrett then left the location and notified Detective Greenhill that he had been refused service to the bar. At 9:50 p.m., detectives from Vice and inspectors from the Liquor Board entered Club 2300 at 2300 West Baltimore Street and advised Happy Salinda that the bar would be written up for liquor board violations relating to the tavern side of the bar. Agent Chris Malice explained to Mr. Salinda that if the packaged goods of the establishment is open, then the adjacent bar would also have to be open to customers as well. Also, while on the scene, detectives from Vice and inspectors from the Liquor Board observed the following violations. The female bathroom was out of order and blocked, stock was not elevated on the floor and the basement, and the current health permit was expired. No other violations observed at that time. The establishment was left in the control of Mr. Salinda.
Do you have any questions for the detective? Okay. Anything further?
The only other violation that we saw was the expired health permit. Other than that, I mirror the detective's testimony.
Have you been back to find out whether there's a health permit that's...
I personally have not, Chairman. Whoever district it is might have conducted a more up-to-date routine. I had just done a compliance while I was there.
Okay. Do you want to put on testimony?
Oh, yes. Okay, so the individual that was working that night, he was new to the environment, so it's like there were customers coming in. They were like, "Are you okay? Like, are you safe?" And apparently there was a shooting like up down a block, so he was afraid of that. So he stopped the bar customers. We usually do let people in the back, but that night he was like afraid of he just didn't want to get into a bad situation, and he let us know the following morning.
Is he still working for you?
He left that week.
What's going on with the bathroom?
Bathroom la kenta hai? Huh?
We have a cleanup after that. Everything.
So in the bathrooms, we have two different ones. There's one upstairs and one downstairs. So we only have like one set that's working at a time. So
You know, you had a violation in 2016 for sanitation and safety.
पिछले साल भी कोई सी भी? याद?
Why isn't the other bathroom working?
Oh, we have one at a time.
We have a two-bathroom over there.
I'm sorry, you have one at a time. I don't understand.
Yeah, like we have two different bathrooms that like we open because if we're cleaning one of them, like we have that one like we.
But this was non-operational on that date. What does that mean? They couldn't use it?
Oh, that means like it's in the back. So if somebody's walking in, like you can't really go in the back.
I don't know what that means, but okay. Commissioners have questions?
Do you have a men's bathroom and a ladies' bathroom? Are both working?
Yes.
Or no? Because it seems like the concern was that the ladies' room was out of order, and that was the focus. The ladies' room wasn't working at all.
No, they're both working.
But the night of the incident, the ladies' room was not working.
Can they open thing?
I don't working for that day over there. That's why nephew working over there. I don't know what's wrong, but they're both bathroom is working over there.
Are you telling us that you don't work at this location?
No.
My dad goes there eventually, so we have the workers usually take care of everything.
Okay, so you really don't know whether the ladies
Not
were,
about that.
no knowledge.
Not that.
Do you have a health?
Oh, sorry.
Do you have a health certificate, health permit that's valid at this time?
Not yet. I don't know.
Okay. Anything further? Do you have anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, I don't.
Okay. With respect to the Rule 4.20 CII violation, I would find a violation on March 30, 2017. I would find a violation of Rule 3.09A on March 30, and a violation of Rule 3.09B on March 30. As to the first violation, I'd impose a $750 fine. As to the 309A, I'd impose a $300 fine, and as to 309B, another $300 fine. I give you 30 days.
I agree, and I guess I just have to say that if for any reason you close the tavern, you need to close the whole place.
Okay.
Especially if someone says that they're too afraid to be there. Just close. Just close. Okay?
All right.
All right.
I join my colleagues on both finding the violation of the violations charged, as well as the imposition of the fine. Ms. Carr, I would really encourage you to make clear to your father, please, that this is going down a bad path, and he should really, Mr. Singh, you should be much more engaged. And I do understand. I did have a question, just for the record. I understand, because I was confused myself between 3.09A and 3.09B. I understand that A is for the non-operational bathroom and B is for the expired permit.
Yes, you need to get that health permit.
And,
Okay.
and if you have any questions about how to do all of this, call the office. I mean, there seems to be, like you're basically interpreting for your dad, and that's great. But together, you all have to figure out how to get all of this done so that you're in compliance, right? And don't have problems in the future.
Okay,
All
thank
righty?
you.
I can see you down here, ma'am. Right, call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, investigation report, Inspector John Chrisomalis. Board Exhibit 2, inspection report dated March 30th, 2017, Inspector John Chrisomalis. Board Exhibit 3, Baltimore City Police Department report, Detective Elsie Greenhill. And Exhibit 4, 1 photo. Thank you.
Calling the next case, Bing Chen and Yoon Chen, Chen's Liquors Incorporated, trading as B&O Cafe, 1301 through 03 West Pratt Street. This is a Class BD7 beer wine liquor license, violation of Rule 4.20C, I, Class BD7 licensees, open and operating tavern at all times.
Would everyone who's going to testify raise their right hand, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
What is your name, ma'am?
My first name is Bing, B-I-N-G, last name is Chen, C-H-E-N.
Ms. Chen, do you wish to admit this violation or contest it?
Admit it.
Okay. So this was May 13 when the agents came in and the tavern portion was not in operation. What happened on that day?
Okay, I would just went upstairs, and I do not know why my employee denied the bar customers. And he's in the future on. He's been notified that not to deny bar customers.
Did you ask him why he denied it?
I don't have no idea. And he been there working for a few years, and he never had that issue before.
Well, you have no history of violations, so I don't know what was going on. Is there anybody here who interacted with him? No. Okay.
Mark Bossler, Chief. No, sir.
You just went in afterwards and advised them of the violation?
Yes, sir.
And they were cooperative?
They were cooperative, sir. We had some issues with B&O's Tavern, but we've been back several times, instructed Ms. Chen to take certain actions, and it appears from our latest visits that she's trying to do. It's a difficult area, and she's trying to call the police, document those calls to police when there are issues, and which we've encouraged her to do. There was some graffiti on the side that was taken care of. She's attempting to correct activities in the establishment, and but in this particular instance, that definitely was a failure to act as a PD7.
And who is Yun Chen?
That's my dad.
Your dad. And is he active with this establishment?
No, I'm the full-timer here.
Okay. Are you aware that we've received letters from the Montclair Community Council and from the Southwest Partnership raising serious issues about your establishment and its attraction of people that they don't want to have in that community, drug sales and other nefarious conduct? I mean, have you had any communication with these organizations?
At the beginning, when I started that business, I did communicate with them, and I've been sending emails, like text, to the community about adding my name onto the list, and for some reason, it just never happened.
Well, given, the fact that Chief Inspector Fossler has told us there have been some issues with you, and the fact that these community people are raising issues with you that aren't necessarily before us today because we only have the one violation from May 13, I think you're on notice that you're going to have problems in the future with license renewal and perhaps other complaints raised. So you'd be well advised to contact them, really be active, speak with them, see if you can work with them and with the chief inspector and his staff, okay?
Okay, and this is my first time violation. I do cooperate with the liquor board trying to work because it's a pretty bad traffic area, and I've been calling police when the issues coming off or people are loitering in front of a near the store or anything. So I do trying to work because I'm full time there. So every time when they there, I'm there too. So I do want give us a chance, and I know it is a hard area to having a lot of issues too.
I understand, and I note that it's your first violation. So does anyone else have anything?
Where do you live?
I just moved to Ellicott City, but most time I live upstairs and my mom's taking care of my kids.
Okay, so I looked at the records. It looked like you were living in Fort Washington, Maryland. That's not correct.
That's my dad's house.
That's your dad's house. So your dad lives in Baltimore. Is that correct?
My dad lives in Fort Washington.
Your dad lives in Fort Washington, and your mom lives in Baltimore?
My mom lived in Ellicott City.
In Ellicott City. And did you say you usually are upstairs?
Yes, I live upstairs.
From what? Upstairs from the bar?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the third floor.
So you live in Baltimore City? Okay. So the testimony or the evidence that we got was that the bar area was not operational at all, and basically was used for like a storage area for children's toys, et
That
cetera.
has been taken care of.
Tell us how you've addressed that. What's been changed?
I took care of, I cleaned up the whole entire bars. We had a morning chat, made sure all the bathrooms, toilet papers, everything is ready for customer to come in, clean the bar areas. And the sink has been full up at all time. And last time they was there last week, and they can see that it's been dressed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's been taken care of.
It has. We were there last week checking out.
Thank you.
Mr. Foster, have you communicated with the licensee about the 911 log?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing further.
One more thing.
Yes.
There's someone who wanted to testify, I believe.
Were you here on this case?
Daniel Rodenberg, Union Square Association.
Please come up.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Daniel Rodenberg, Union Square Association, Southwest Partnership, representative, Vibrant Walkable Streets Committee. The communities with, as the document letters that you received from Montclair and also Union Square and several others wanted to participate. Being the only representative here, along with some neighbors vicinity, and I live just a block and a half away. This particular business, now, no reflection on you, but it does impact, and the hours, if it's not a bar, it should be a packaged goods store. If it's really not a bar, then it shouldn't be pretending to be a bar in those hours, because it's an epicenter of serious crime with a railing that's actually adjacent to the building. People are actually, drugged out, hanging off the railing, day in, day out, into all hours. So this can't go on, because this is an added issue in the community of trying to, so beyond the scope of this particular violation, one would hope that they would either be curtailed in their hours, if this is not really a bar, and or maybe convert, if you have a cafe, which it's issued as a cafe, that it's a cafe and a takeout store. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. I would find a violation of Rule 4.20 CII on May 13, 2017. This being the first violation, I'd impose a $500 fine and give you 30 days.
Thank you.
Okay, I concur.
I concur. And to the community leaders here, thank you. We have certain restrictions on what we can do, so appreciate your testimony.
Yes, thank you.
Next to you down here, ma'am. Board Exhibit 1, Investigation Report, Chief Inspector Mark Fossler. Board Exhibit 2, Baltimore City Police Department Report, Detective Gatto. Board Exhibit 3, letter of opposition from Southwest Partnership dated 7/19/2017. Exhibit 4, letter of opposition from Mount Clair Community Council dated 7/19/2017. Thank you.
On the last case on the docket, this is a motion for reconsideration, calling Jamie Bravo and Alejo Martinez, El Oasis Restaurant y Discotheque Incorporated, trading as El Oasis Restaurant y Discotheque, 3919 through 21 Eastern Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. It's a motion to reconsider the violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, and violation of Rule 4.16, Illegal Conduct.
Councilwoman, identify yourself for the record, please.
Afternoon, Commissioners. Dan Palumbo on behalf of the licensees.
Okay, would everyone raise their right hands, please?
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay.
Preliminary question for interpreter, Inspector Perez to be here.
Okay, I appreciate that. Mr. Colombo, your client requested reconsideration of this matter, which was heard at our last meeting, where we found the violation of Rule 4.16 and also of Rule 3.12. And we had indefinitely suspended the license. For myself, I'd be willing to reconsider not the findings of violation, but the sanction that we imposed, and hear you on that. And I'd leave it up to my fellow commissioners as to how they view it.
Is council's name Palumbo with a P or
ma'am.
Columbo with
Oh,
a
I'm
C?
sorry, I misunderstood you. I
Palumbo.
thought you
Okay.
said.
I'm used to that, Mr. Chairman.
I know, we all have
You're
those.
more of a Palumbo than a Columbo. I would concur with the motion to reconsider, or granting the motion to reconsider.
I concur.
So tell us why we should not indefinitely suspend this license.
And Mr. Chairman, had we been here last week, we would have admitted to the violation anyway. I will tell you that the licensees are embarrassed to be here before council today because we had this exact same situation occur, I believe it was a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Same thing, noise violation. They didn't get the licensees did not get the violation notice, and the first time they heard about it was the same exact situation when their license was suspended. I have known Mr. Alejo Martinez for many, many years. He came in to see me. We had a heart-to-heart talk as to how we're going to proceed, because clearly there's a disconnect between the manager at El Oasis and the licensee holder. So I have suggested, and he has agreed, to do three things. First is Ms. Quintero, who was the manager of El Oasis, is no longer the manager of El Oasis. I will assure this board that the licensees had no knowledge of the violation until the license was suspended. That deals with the issue of notification, but it doesn't get to the underlying problem, which is the noise violation. We're going to have Christian Sanchez, who has been with Mr. Martinez for quite some time, act as the interim manager until they hire somebody permanently. He will institute a policy that limits the noise level of bands and DJs. But even more importantly than that, we are actually going to go ahead and do some soundproofing. I don't know if you've actually seen the location, but it's basically a concrete square building. They have retained the services of a general contractor to soundproof or to do some soundproofing of the building, which is going to involve replacing doors and putting soundproof doors in, together with some, my understanding is, some soundproof baffling along the walls. I think that will address the noise issue. So my hope is that with those three things that are being done, this will be the last time that you see these licensees here on this type of violation.
How long have they been shut down now?
Approximately a week, I believe.
Okay, and what other fine did we impose? No fine?
Mr. Chairman,
We
if
did
I-
not, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could be heard with regards to that, because the one thing that I wanted to mention is this is not a although it's important to the Latino community, it is not a large establishment. My understanding, speaking to Christian, is that it's going to cost between $4,500 and $5,000 to do some of the soundproofing that I discussed earlier. So I'd ask this board to consider that in imposing a fine in this matter.
Okay. Commissioners have questions?
It occurred to me that when we were here last week, that the real issue, I think the more serious issue was one of management and control of the location. And sometimes when those issues combine, it's because there's a financial arrangement between the manager and the licensee, where the manager is acting as the owner and the licensee is not engaged. And I'd like to know, is that the situation, or was that the situation here?
No, not at all. What you have is Mr. Martinez very involved in the operation.
Which one is Mr. Martinez? Mr. Martinez, okay.
What you have is basically an incompetence at the manager level.
Incompetence bubbles up, right? So, I mean,
I'm
he's
not-
ultimately responsible for that.
As I said at the beginning, we're embarrassed to be here, and
Okay.
I've explained to him that ultimately, he's responsible for what happens.
Yes.
But I think the step of replacing Ms. Quinteros, particularly with Christian initially, Christian.
And Christian is in the middle. Okay.
I think will resolve that situation.
Okay, thank you.
I too recall the issue about management being fairly significant, and I take your word, but it seems to me that the licensee doesn't seem to be very present. That's one issue. The second issue that I thought was pretty compelling from the testimony last week was with regard to the noise, and how animated the detective and the inspector were with respect to how loud and how much it jolted them. I don't think that issue's going away unless this soundproofing actually is effective and works and happens very quickly. So how soon, my question is, how soon will that soundproofing get up?
Next week,
Do we have an idea as to how long it will take to have it completed?
Like 5 days.
Okay. This is not a situation where it's going to take 6 months to soundproof it. We're talking a week or two.
Do you have any of the paperwork for the contractor, any invoices, anything to document?
I have, because this all happened very quickly, and as I said, they weren't aware of anything until the end of last week. They had the contractor come over, take these pictures, also provide us with some pictures of what soundproofing they're going to use, with some very preliminary costs that are associated with it. I would certainly be happy to provide that as an exhibit.
You may. Okay. Anything further?
Chairman, I'd like to address the licensees, if you don't mind, for just 2 seconds.
Go ahead.
Agent Chris Amalis, Baltimore City Liquor Board. I just want to take the time to address your clients because I've never seen them in the location in the over 20 calls of service that I have received. I can appreciate the soundproofing effort, but I've had a hard time getting them to close the front door for over a year. So I would just, if we can put on the record when this soundproofing is going to happen, because it's using a lot of our resources to continue coming to this establishment. I've never once seen any of these gentlemen here at the location, ever.
I believe that you will see Christian there.
That's
far
great,
more
and
frequently.
I look forward to working with him. I work with a lot of the different bar owners in the southeast, but it's a little frustrating to hear about all this soundproofing when I can't get them to keep the front door closed.
My understanding, and I could be wrong about this, is that there are actually 2 doors in the front. Is that
Correct.
correct? So I believe that what they're planning on doing is soundproofing the exterior door and then doing.
Well, they keep the exterior door open. The interior door,
And then just keep
the interior door, I told several people that represented to be managers, there's a 2-inch gap around the door, and they haven't put weather stripping in over a year. So I just hope that the soundproofing does happen.
I would invite you, hopefully, within 2 weeks to come back.
Oh, I'm
and-
sure I'll be back probably before that.
And satisfy yourself as to the soundproof.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay. Anything further?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. The board having found violations of Rule 3.12 and Rule 4.16 at our last hearing, I would impose as to Rule 3.12 a fine of $1,000. As to Rule 4.16, a fine of $1,000. I would lift the suspension and give them 30 days to pay it, and I would encourage them to get that soundproofing in ASAP.
So I concur with the finding of the violation and the imposition of the fine. I am very bothered at the testimony that the liquor board has been to this location 20 times and not seen you, Mr. Martinez. That's a concern that has to change. We'll be back. The inspectors will be back. The changes have to happen immediately.
So I concur with the finding of the violation and the imposition of the fine. I would have, being in the minority though, I would have extended the suspension until there was proof that there was soundproofing installed and to the satisfaction of Agent Chris Amalis and Chief Fossler.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Licensee Exhibit 1, 4 photos. Thank you.
I like that idea.
Okay, I believe that's our docket, Mr. Akras.
So that concludes our docket, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
We'll
Just in time for
adjourn.
the afternoon docket if we have one.
Yeah. Let's see. So want to get some lunch?
Board will be in recess until July 27th.